Hi there, this is Robert Stellick with Blue Planet Surf Shop in Honolulu, and just wanted to show you some of the new things we just recently got in. We recently received a shipment of our new 2014 Blue Planet boards. Got 120 boards in, going fast, and but we're going to have new shipments coming in every couple months. And we also got a shipment of starboards, the 2014 starboards. So we'll go over some of the new models that we have in stock. Really nice new colors, new models. Our existing models that were popular, we continued, made like some small tweaks to some of the models, and have some new models that are really nice. Easy to use, high performance. We got like a pretty wide range of boards, from tiny little 7.6 microchip, we call it, all the way up to our extra easy board. This is our our brochure that we have at the shop if you want to pick one of these up. We have the Easy Performance series, we have the All-Round series, we have the High Performance series. So we got a lot of different boards in the lineup, lots of cool colors. And let's go over maybe some of the different models that are new for this 2014 lineup. All right, so this one here is a new model for 2014, the MultiTasker model. It's 10 foot 6 inches by 34 inches wide by 4 inches thick and 170 liters in volume. So it's a very stable board. It's kind of based on our Easy series, kind of based on the same shape as the 10.2 Easy model, the 10.2 by 32, which has been one of our most popular boards in our line. So we made it a little bit bigger, wider, pulled the rails in a little bit harder, steeper rails, so a little bit thinned out in the rail, so a little bit easier to surf. So it's very stable at 34 inches wide, but still a nice surfing board. We call it the MultiTasker because it's kind of good at everything. It surfs well, it glides well, it cruises. It's good as a family board. It's stable enough as a beginner board. So it's a really nice all-around board. Like if you're looking for a good first board for average sized person, this is a great choice. The MultiTasker, we call it. This colorway is called the brown fade or earth fade. So it has like the two-tone deck pad with the islands, a little tail kick in the tail, and then some of the standard features on all our boards are two leash plugs in the back, lifts up handle, makes it real easy to carry it, and we got a new handle coming out too that with no moving parts. That's a really nice handle. The vent plug, two-way vent plug that you don't have to do anything. It just automatically vents the board. GoPro plug in the front. And then all the boards over 10 feet long, we have 4 tie-down points on the deck as well. So if you want to pack a lunch or tie a life vest down on your deck, or snorkeling gear or whatever you want to take with you on the trip, you can do that with the tie-downs here. And yeah, like I said, all the 2014 boards over 10 feet have that as a standard feature. Let's take a look at the bottom. All our boards are vacuum bag construction. So they have a layer of bamboo veneer, glass under it, glass over it. And then our higher performance boards have 5 boxes. I think this is the biggest one that comes with the 5 fin box setup. The bigger than that, they don't have like 3 fins. But anything under 10.6 has 5 fins, so you can set it up as a 2+1 or as a quad or a single fin. Lots of different options, and it comes with 5 fins, so you have lots of different options for the fin setup. And this one is priced at $12.49, really good price. And our in-store special with this board is if you buy this board, you also get for free, not only the fins, deck pads included, but you also get a free board bag. And if you order it on our website, you can get free shipping to the nearest airport in the US, or in our shop you can get a free deluxe paddle package, which is a carbon paddle, adjustable or fixed length, you can choose, and a paddle bag and a leash. That's all included. If you're on the mainland, you choose the free shipping. You can get the deluxe paddle package for an extra $250. So great value. We can get it to you at a real reasonable price.
When you talk about the steeper rail, what does that mean? Like, what's the difference? Is it a tucked-in rail or?
Okay. So let's talk a little bit about the rail some more. Basically, you know, like all the boards in our Easy Performance series have a flat deck, which I like the flat deck because you know, it keeps your feet level instead of if you have a dome deck that has a high point in the middle and is domed. Your feet kind of are a little bit at an angle, slanted outward, so you're a little bit O-legged, and it's harder to balance. And also when you start tipping, it feels like your foot's going to slip off the board easier. So by keeping the deck flat, you know, even at an angle, you have better grip on the deck. Plus your feet are just in a more comfortable, natural position. So all the boards have a flat deck. So you know, in terms of the rail shape, it's just like how boxy, or how like a boxy rail is a thicker, fatter rail, and then the more thinned out rail would have more of an angle. So it's a little bit thinner, and the widest point is a little bit lower. So it's just taking a little bit of the volume out of the rails and bringing the volume a little bit lower allows you to, like when you're turning the board, just kind of sink the rail a little bit better into a bottom turn. Kind of if you're leaning forward on the rail as you're turning, a little bit less volume in the rail, it makes it easier to cut into that turn. And then, you know, also like tapering the board towards the tail, making it thinner, helps you get that sink the rail into the wave a little bit easier. At the same time, if you don't have enough volume in the rail, if the rails are too thin, then that can be an issue too, because you know, that makes the board more tippy. As the board starts to sink, if you don't have enough volume to kind of push you back up and have that secondary stability, with rails that are too thin, then that makes the board really tippy and harder to you know, recover from. If you lose your balance, it's harder to recover if the rails are too thin, really.
So this would be a good board for somebody maybe even 200, 220 pounds, and to be able to still surf and get that rail out of the water and make that bottom turn.
Yeah, this one, yeah, even a bigger guy, and you know, like, you know, I would say even like somebody up to like 250 or 270 pounds would do well on this board, as long as they're experienced. You know, like this wouldn't be a good first board for someone that weight, but it's a good surfing board for someone, a bigger guy that needs the volume. You know, but you know, for a beginner around 200 pounds, this is a good board. You know, like I would say between 180 and 220. This can be your first board that you can learn on and then advance on, as long as you're reasonably athletic and have reasonably good balance.
Would you recommend that board for women?
Yeah, for women too. You know, it depends on, you know, how much stability you need. Like a lot of times, you know, a petite, lightweight woman doesn't need a board like this. You know, but you know, so it depends on the weight, height, and weight. Really, how much stability you need, and it's always good to demo boards. And you want your first board, you want something that's challenging, so it's not too easy, but you also don't want it to be so difficult to balance that you don't use it or you get frustrated with it. Then it just sits around, and like the whole idea is that you have fun, enjoy it, get out there as much as possible, and you know, get in shape and get better. So you don't want something that you're not going to be using a lot. You know.
Do you recommend for women, especially lighter petite women, to get something smaller that they can carry back and forth from the car to the beach, as opposed to maybe something bigger that would be super duper stable for them?
Oh, that's a good question. I mean, that's it's one of the biggest concerns when women buy a board is, am I going to be able to carry it, lift it on my car, store it, and move it around? You know, and that's almost a bigger concern than, are they going to be able to paddle it well? You know. So I would say it's both important. I mean, it's kind of like, you know, like sometimes we have people coming into the shop and saying, I need a board that fits in my elevator, or I need a board that fits in my closet and can only be, or in my car, can only be 8'6" long, you know. So, and to me, it's kind of like saying, you know, I want a pair of shoes, but it has to fit in this box. And it's, you know, like you don't buy shoes to fit into a box, you buy shoes to fit your feet, right? So the most important thing is that you get a board that works for you, and then like everything else is kind of secondary. But at the same time, I totally understand the concern about you know, making it work. But you know, like you don't want to get a board that's so small that you can't use it, you know, obviously. So the first concern is always, you know, is it the right board for you? The second concern is, you know, at that size, you know, what can I get that works for me, basically, you know. I mean, sometimes you have size limitations, I understand that, but that's not, like, you know, the biggest concern should be the performance of the board and making sure that it's the right board for you, you know. Okay, so let's talk a little bit more about the boards. You know, this is a different model now, the Fun Stick, which I really like, and it's a new model, a 9.4 by 33 by 4 inches thick. It's 140 liters. And you know, all our boards, the bamboo veneer construction is a really nice compromise between lightweight and still strong and resilient. You know, they're not like, we could make the board stronger by adding more glass, but we try to keep them lightweight. So these are, it's a nice weight. This one's probably around 23, 24 pounds, something like that. And has like a nice thinned out tail. Also the rails are pretty thinned out. Has that flat deck once again, but fairly thinned out rails on the sides here, which makes it real surfable. So this is a good board for, you know, lighter weight rider could use this as their first board. It's 33 inches wide, so nice and stable, easy to use, and still can surf and do it all easily. This colorway is called the Blue Fade. Kind of has a lighter blue in the middle. It's probably hard to see, and a little bit darker blue fade front and back. The deck pad, two-tone blue deck pad with the islands in the middle. You know, all the nice features, lift step handle, so on. So this one, the Fun Stick, I think is a winner. I really like this board, and you know, on the choppier, windier days, you got the width to keep you from falling in. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about the width of the board and the length of the board and how that affects the performance, because there's often confusion. Like, people come in and it's like, oh, I need an 11-footer. That's what I rented before. But you know, what's almost more important than the length in terms of stability is the width of the board. So the width of the board, you know, the wider the board is, the more stable it's going to be side to side, because when you're rocking the board back and forth, the width is probably the most important. The width in the middle, you know, basically is the most important number you want to look at. So if you're comfortable on a 30-inch wide board, you know, if you go longer or shorter, it's not going. There's going to be a difference. Obviously, also how the board is laid out. If it's like the older style longboards have a real wide nose and a wide tail and kind of a straight outline. So those boards, they do have a little bit more stability for the same width as a than like this one here has kind of a pulled in tail, pulled in nose. So it's wide in the middle, but it kind of has a curvy outline. So even though it's 33 in the middle, if you step back on it, you're riding like a narrower board basically. So for surfing, that's a nice feature, because off the tail it's real easy to turn and it's real surfy. But then when you step forward, when you're paddling, it's nice and stable, you know. So, and then also the thickness of the rail and the volume in the rails is important. Like a real thin rail will be more tippy than a real thick rail at the same dimensions. Now, going shorter, you know, people a lot of times like, well, I just want to go as short as possible, so it's easy to transport and stuff like that. The disadvantage of going too short is that it doesn't have much glide. It basically, a real short board will kind of push through the water. It won't glide as well, and also it won't track well, so it's harder to make it go straight. It wants to kind of turn. So on a wave, that's a good thing, because a shorter board will just be easy to like swing around up and down the wave, real surfy. But if you just want to go straight at Ala Moana, like a lot of women or people just want to get some exercise, paddle in flat water, which is great. We encourage that, but for that, the shorter boards are not necessarily ideal, because it's harder to make them go straight, and they also won't have the same amount of glide. So it's a little bit more of a, you know, and you know, some people say, well, I don't mind getting more of a workout, so then that's fine, and actually you have to have better technique to make it go straight. So, you know, that's not necessarily a disadvantage, but if you paddle with other people that are on longer boards, you're going to have a hard time keeping up with them on a short board. Like if you have a 9-foot board and someone else is on an 11-footer, the 11-footer is just going to glide better no matter how good your 9-footer is. It's just like the length dictates the speed of the board more or less, you know, to some extent anyway. That's why the racing boards are like 14 feet, 18 feet, at least 12.6, you know. So the longer the board is, the more glide it's going to have and the faster it's going to be. So keep that in mind as well. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about the different outlines of boards, you know, like, and the difference in shapes, you know, like, you know, I designed these boards. This one is more of a classic longboard type of shape. It's the 1010 Zen Master. It's 10 foot 10 inches long by 33 wide, Yeah, let's get it up on its rail so you can see kind of the outline. So, this is kind of the classic longboard shape with a fuller, rounded nose, a little bit wider tail. So it kind of keeps its width more throughout the length of the board. And then, if you look on the bottom, it usually has a fairly fairly flat middle section for gliding, and then kind of a little bit more tail rocker in the tail, so that you're able to turn it off the back. Without that tail kick, you wouldn't be able to turn this board very well at all. And so, and the fuller nose is nice. This is, these boards glide well. They have like nice characteristics, very forgiving. In the surf, also, if you want to walk forward on the nose, it's easy to surf it off the nose. And it's also fairly easy to surf it kind of from the middle of the board. You don't have to move all the way to the tail to turn it. You can kind of surf it more from the middle. So this is a nice kind of shape for entry-level use as well. And this one has kind of that dome deck, which has the thickest point in the middle, and then kind of tapers off towards the rails. A little bit more standard surfboard shape. I think the downside of that design is that you got the dome deck. Your feet are a little bit angled out, which it's not a big deal, but it's just kind of the more traditional surfboard type of longboard shape. This one, by keeping the nose and the tail wider, we have a more straight outline. And the straighter outline is a little bit faster and tracks better. So the more the rails have kind of a parallel, straighter outline, the more the board's going to go straight, basically. And also the flatter section in the middle is kind of easier to make it glide a little bit better. So this has been a popular board for people that just want to kind of cruise, catch some smaller waves, and surf smaller waves.
Or Ala Moana.
Yeah, cruising at Ala Moana, longer distances. This one is longer too, with a 10'10" length. It has a nice glide, and if you want to put a dog or some kids on the front, or any one passenger, 2 people riding on it, a longer board definitely makes more sense. For 2 people, you want to have at least a 10'6" board or longer. We usually recommend. Okay, so let's talk a little bit about this outline in comparison. So this board is definitely a different outline. So you can see the nose is narrower, the tail is narrower, it's more pulled in, and the outline is a lot more curvy. And then the rocker line is more gradual. So instead of having like a lot of kick in the tail, it's more like a gradual rocker all the way through. It doesn't have that long flat section in the middle. It's shorter. So so just by all these design characteristics, it's made to be easier to turn and maneuver. It makes those rounded rails, and then also the gradual rocker is a little bit faster on the wave. You can generate more speed with it, and then the thinner rails, and especially in the tail, make it surf really well off the tail. Easy to like sink the board into high-speed turns and so on. So the downside with a design like that is if you're just on the flats and going straight, the board's gonna kind of wander more. So and a lot of times when people say, "Oh, my board yaws too much," it's not necessarily the board's fault, is your stroke. So you even like the shortest, roundest board, you can still make it go straight if you have good technique. Basically, what you want to do, instead of getting the paddle like diagonally and out to the side away from the board, this will make your board turn. This is like a steering stroke. Instead, you want to get the paddle straight up and down and kind of almost pull it a little bit towards you. And so the stroke makes a big difference in how straight your board will go, but it's obviously also the characteristics of the boards. This board will definitely go straight easier than this board, but it's also a 1.5 feet longer, and same width. So in terms of side-to-side stability, there's not going to be a huge difference, but in the characteristics of the boards, it's going to be a noticeable difference.